Okay, I think we're going to get started. We might have a few latecomers because I know it's going to be difficult making it up in time from lunch. So before I introduce our speakers, could I just ask everyone to make sure you are sitting at a table that has A3 worksheets on and you have access to those, and that you're perhaps not sitting just with colleagues from your own institution. You've mixed yourselves up a bit. That'd be great. Okay, for people coming in, just if you could move to take seats in these kind of middle-ish tables so that you've got access to worksheets, that would be great. Okay, the reason for that will become clear in the course of the presentation. Right, if you're in Circle 1, you're here to hear from University of Essex, how we took social sciences to market, which is a bit of a case study from the University of Essex, maximising K opportunities from your academic base. And I'm really delighted that we have Kirstie Cochran, Stephanie Humphreys and Paul McNaught, who are going to take you through the case study and do some exercises with you with those worksheets that I mentioned. We've probably only got an hour. You know, there's challenges of a venue this size, but we'll make sure we have time for some Q&A at the end. So over to you, Kirstie.
Hi, hello and welcome to our session, and thank you very much for the introduction, Tamsin. We're going to talk about how we took social sciences to the market, and we have advertised this as a workshop. So I hope you're all here ready and active after a lovely lunch. So you're going to hear from myself and Paul. We're going to talk about how we devised the evaluation service, which is what we're going to talk about today. Then we have some lovely worksheets that my colleague Stephanie is going to take you all through so that you can devise ways in your own institution to take any new ideas, products or services to the market. So I hope that's what you're all looking for from this session. That's what we tried to describe it as. Oh my God, loads more people. Please come in. Please come in. We will find you worksheets, but please sit across some tables. So I'm going to talk about the background and the expertise that we have at the University of Essex. Then I'm going to talk about our journey. Then I'm going to hand over to Paul, who's going to talk about what we offer today in the form of our evaluation services. And then you will have an opportunity to ask us some questions before we then head into the workshop session where you can get involved and think about your own institutions or institutions of other people on the tables that you are sitting with. Is that all okay for everybody? Lovely. Right, so a bit about the background of the University of Essex. We are globally recognised for our social sciences research. We receive more funds from the Economic and Social Research Council than any other university. We have the Institute for Social and Economic Research. That is a leading centre for the production and analysis of longitudinal studies. We have the ESRC's Data Archive, which is a global centre of excellence in acquiring, curating and providing access to social sciences and humanities data. And their practice has been influential across the world. We have our Faculty of Social Sciences, where we have listed there the departments that make that up. And 4 of those social science subjects were in the top 10 for research quality in the last REF. And we also have the Centre for Behavioural Sciences, which was formerly known as the Essex Lab, which is a physical space where our researchers can undertake the social sciences research. So we're really good at social sciences is the take-home message from this slide. And we're also really quite good at knowledge exchange. We are #1 for active knowledge transfer partnerships in the UK. If you ever meet anybody from the University of Essex, we will tell you this once, we'll tell you it twice, and if you're lucky, you'll hear it a 3rd time from somebody else, because they know that about us as well. When we look at our cluster X, that's the cluster that we're in for the KEF, we have the 9th highest HIFE allocation. That's in the top half. We take that as a win. We are 14th in the sector when we look at our KEF metrics, and our last HEBC return, so for 22-23, we have now managed to surpass our university's KPI by more than £2 million. So we're really good at knowledge exchange, we're really good at social sciences, so we'll try to bring these things together. So, how do we do this? Well, we asked ourselves some questions. How do we get our research into the real world and make it useful? And then we asked, how do we provide solutions to external organisations based on that social sciences research? So not looking at the classic tech transfer route, what can we do for our social sciences expertise? And then we asked ourselves a really important question: what do our social sciences academics like to do? Because there's no point in trying to sell something where you have an unwilling product, let's say. So we thought, let's ask ourselves what they really don't like doing. Well, they're really not that keen on creating a spin-out. They're really not that keen on generating licensing income, and actually they're sometimes not really great at selling and promoting themselves within the social sciences. What do they do like to do? They like to provide advice. They like to undertake evaluations. They like to show if interventions in local authorities and charities are working, and they like to provide evidence that change is occurring. So let's look at the journey that we have taken. So we identified a need for support. We noticed that we were getting approached by lots of different institutions, small charities, local charities, larger organisations like Essex Council, NHS trusts. Can you evaluate this thing that we have done? We have brought in a new intervention of some sort, whether it was that children or adults, or we want to do something new. Can you tell us if it's working or not? They would come to us at the end of these projects, which was also a bit of an issue, because the best way to do an evaluation is to have your baseline and then to take your baseline measures and then come back at the end. But they were coming to us with a lot of these questions. Can you tell us if this has worked? And it was lots and lots of little pots of money. So there was a lot of ad hoc projects happening across the institution, and not just within the Faculty of Social Sciences, but also within our Health and Social Care department. So we thought to ourselves, lots of these little projects, can we do more? So we did. We decided to create a presence called Evaluation Services. So we undertook, I think this was back in 2014, we undertook a piece of desk research. We looked at lots of other higher education institutions. Is anybody doing this? Is anybody saying that they've got an evaluation service? And we found out it was maybe 2 other institutions were looking at this as well. So we decided to brand ourselves an evaluation service and to dedicate resource to that. And that's the key thing here. So we pulled this all together to look at qualitative, quantitative, and mixed data sets on specific issues that was all based around the smaller projects that we had had. So I am now going to hopefully go to now this slide has got a roller coaster on it because we're in Blackpool. If I was delivering this somewhere else, it wouldn't have a roller coaster. But please, please be impressed with the people in my team that can make a roller coaster slide come up and work, because I'm very impressed. And I did not do this, somebody did this for me. So in 2015, we identified the trends and approaches from the external organisations, and a key thing for us was Essex County Council, so obviously we're in the county of Essex, they put out a tender to develop an evaluations framework. So we thought, we'll apply for this and see if we can get this. We applied for it, and then Essex County Council decided that they didn't get what they wanted from anybody applying. So we were like, what are you going to do now then? And the upshot is now they still don't have what they really wanted, but they do work with us on a lot of discrete projects. So they wanted a massive thing that was going to solve all their problems, and actually what they've now realised is that you need to do this on an individual basis, project by project. So we developed evaluation services, gave ourselves a web presence, and took along academic leadership. That was really key for us. So the academic leadership for this used to be with one of our eminent professors, but now it mostly resides with one of our faculty deans, the faculty dean for research in the social sciences. They provide the leadership for us for that. In 2017, we created a job description in the form of a knowledge exchange officer for evaluation services, where their role was solely to support generating income by undertaking evaluations, and that was across the whole institution. And the person in this role now is Paul, who will come up when the roller coaster slide is finished. So we recruited, not Paul, but 2 people before him, and started building up expertise in the professional services sense of how to attract this evaluation income in the form of contract research or consultancy, and to pull the academics together and to start giving it more of a presence and make it more visible within the institution and externally. So we have developed expertise in applying for competitive tenders, and we have created an internal evaluation network so that the academics can come together and understand what each other are doing. And basically, we managed to bring in £2 million worth of income to the evaluation services by 2020. So it's a really strong service and offering from us at the University of Essex. Right, and I think I am going to hand over to Paul, who is going to take us through what we do now today.
Thank you, Kirstie. There I am. So yeah, where we are today, so me, I am a 1 FTE resource knowledge exchange officer with the remit of servicing the evaluation portfolio within the university. I'm going to get to the right slide as well. And where we are is we are mainly supporting public and third sector organisations, from local charities to national bodies such as Arts Council England. We've got a large project running with them at the moment. We have lots of repeat clients through word of mouth, through academic networks, through generating new projects. Since 2015, we've now generated a total project value of over £3 million as well. We have projects which are live across all faculties currently. Lots of those projects are multi-faculty, interdisciplinary, which we find always gives the best value for the client themselves and for the academic curiosity. It allows them to really push forward into the research element of this and not just providing a service for cash. And we have just at the university had a new health hub which has been created, and part of that is the Institute of Public Health and Wellbeing, and they have launched with 4 pillars, and one of their key pillars is evaluation itself. The projects that we have got, as I say, it's not just the service for cash. This is not just transactional in nature. However, obviously, my role is paid for by these projects. However, it's about building partnerships with local organisations. It's about building partnerships with regional organisations. It's about the academics themselves building networks as well. It's about and allowing them to use their own curiosity in an area that they actually care about, in a sector that they care about. And whilst I may go out and meet a local arts organisation to perhaps they've heard about an evaluation and how it can really help them, and when we actually sit down and scope it out, and after sort of 2 meetings or so, what we may find is that it's not an evaluation that they're actually after all. And I will bring in my colleagues from perhaps the KTP team, or they may go down the more traditional research grant-funded route, which we do have. But that's the nature of this. As I say, it's not just one single service that sits on its own. It's about living within the whole ecosystem of the university itself. So how do we go about creating new opportunities? So engaging academics in this is absolutely key. For early career researchers, it's a fantastic opportunity to get used to actually being involved in projects, identifying the projects themselves, putting project teams together, writing proposals, meeting clients, delivering work on time. With a smaller evaluation project, it gives them the experience of actually running them, and then they can move on. They've got something in their portfolio, they've got something in their research base, which they can then move on to larger and bigger projects as well. For mid to late career researchers, what this is a chance is for them to use all of that research expertise that they have to get out there and really influence public policy and practice at sort of, as I say, local, regional, national levels. And as I've mentioned this, like we at the crux of this is about building and creating longer term research partnerships. That's really what we're after. Sorry. This is the problem with two screens, because I'm reading this and this is there. Sorry, I've got it here as well. I really apologise about that. So engaging academics and researchers at all career stages, as I say, there is something for the early, the mid and the late career researcher within this. And partnerships are being built with external clients, lasting relationships. For example, we had one academic in our Essex Business School who has created what she terms as social accounting. And this is essentially a different form of metric that we're seeing now. It's not just economic return on investment. People want to try and understand the social return on investment. Very recently, we've helped Essex County Council, who've been looking into a community supermarket. And through the work of this, we have managed to evidence this only in the last 2 weeks, that for every £1 spent on the community supermarket, they've saved £15, which is quite phenomenal figures. And the lady who has done this project started off on this small project. She then moved that into a larger contract research project, which then moved on to a larger KTP that she's been involved with another organisation that are local to us as well. So as I say, it's about helping the movement of the academics as well. We really don't want to just be transactional in nature. And so obviously part of the creating new opportunities as well, though, is applying and competing for open tenders, which are out there in the market for anyone to apply for. There we go. So how do we apply for tenders? So we have to identify the relevant opportunity. Lots of keyword searches using Research Professional, lots of internet searches, and checking with national bodies such as NIHR, such as I said, Arts Council England. We have to understand the funder's requirements, gathering the right team, and with this, does it align with the research strategy of the university? Does it align with the wishes of the academics' research that they want to press forward with? We have to prepare and scope the project, the budget requirements. It's very, very similar to research grant funding projects that our teams go through as well. Writing up the tenders, submitting applications, securing the funding, and as I say, delivering the project. It's about getting academics, particularly at the early career stage, getting used to delivering projects on time to the client's wishes, and sticking to deadlines. And definitely learning for the future, because the more we're applying, we're in a competitive market, so we may not get everything that we can get, but the feedback is essential for us to then learn how can we change when we're moving forward to the next application as well. So looking to the future, I just make a note at the moment though, with these projects themselves, they are both consultancies and contract research in nature. So the consultancy is perhaps not as research intensive, but the contract research, if there's any element of gathering research themselves, a more formative evaluation, then it will go as a contract research project as opposed to a consultancy. So absolutely a consideration or a challenge are the competitors that are in this market. There are smaller fleet-footed specialist consultancy organisations who have off-the-shelf evaluations which are ready to go. Next up is the capacity and resource to deliver the results effectively. We have some real star evaluators within the university, but very quickly their FTE is used up. And how do you train new evaluators? How do you train the early career researchers to deliver at the same quality and sustained quality that has been given previously, that allows the word of mouth clients to come back to us and allow us to keep delivering effectively and maintaining that quality and reputation as we grow? That's a real challenge, but one I think that we're meeting adequately. So what's next for the future? So one of the key considerations that we have with an evaluation as opposed to a consultancy project, oh, thank you, Kirstie. If you just tap a foot, I'll get it with that. I apologise again. So yeah, what's next for the future? So yeah, as I was saying, there's a difference with an evaluation to a research grant funded project in that the evaluation isn't the main project. The main project within this is the intervention or the program that the client is running, the body is running, the counsellor is running. Their project has a fixed start, a fixed end date, and it's going to run. And we're being asked to evaluate for a cash value to be involved in this program. They can't wait for us. So if halfway through the project, your research assistant gets gets a job as a lecturer at another university, has to move home to another country, and suddenly you've got 4 months because you have to hire a new RA, you have to go through the contracting process. It can really lead, as I was mentioning in the previous slide, to it's a reputational risk to us at the university. So we're looking to develop a research assistant pool in conjunction with people and culture, where master's students, PhD students who wish to be involved in these projects can be there and ready to come on at a very short notice, so that we maintain the deadlines, maintain the timeframes, and still deliver effective projects for the clients. Myself and Steph, which I think you will come to later on, did put together a business case when we went to the executive board at the university as well. When we were showing the amount of work that was out there, that was a possibility in the past 14 months, this was when we reported in February, I had circulated in excess of £4.8 million worth of projects to our academic community. Now, we had only taken up on a very small amount of that, around 2%, but of the 2% that we actually took up, we were successful 86% of the time. So the numbers showing that we can do this work are there, but it's having the willingness of the community, because they're really overstretched at the moment, all of our academics. So we took the business case to the executive board, and we have been seconded, starting tomorrow actually, a senior lecturer who's going to be an evaluation specialist at 0.5 FTE, and for a 12-month period basically to see how it goes. We're going to see how the figures go. If it works, this is in health and social care. If this works, we're then going to look to see if we can then transfer that over to social sciences as well, and have the end goal is an evaluation specialist in each of our 3 faculties. And also, one of the things that we're also finding is a lot of the local organisations, particularly like local councils, it is the training. They want to know how to do the evaluations themselves, which is great. I mean, and that's really fires up our academics as well, because this is the knowledge exchange in action. They can then train them up so that they can be more effective evaluators of their own programs, of their own interventions, and over a long course of time, they're always going to want us as independent evaluators, because essentially then they're not marking their own homework, particularly if they're going for a national lottery funded project, which they have to put in 10% for an external evaluator anyway. But we are looking at putting in a continuing professional development offering where our academics can put on training for the organisations and coming on, and the future looks pretty bright. Let's hope. So with that, I think we're going to have a question and answer. Steph has a roaming mic. If you do have any questions for us, if not, then we can move on to the workshop element.
I am wondering how I'm going to get off the stage elegantly, so close your eyes, everyone. I'm going to come to the back.
Hi, Amanda Baxendale from University of Derby. I was just wondering about career progression, incentives, recognition and reward. Some universities do have that third promotion pathway to professorship. They might call it knowledge exchange or professional practice. I just wondered if Essex do have that, and whether you've got those success stories of people engaging in this service offering and that having really good impact on their careers.
Yes, is the short answer. So, yeah, the promotion criteria at Essex, it covers education, research, and what we call citizenship. That's where most of the knowledge exchange type activity sits within. So, yeah, this is it is something that is recognised and celebrated at the university. Also, yeah, we have had academics go forward for professorship where they have used all of the income generating activity from the evaluation service to be able to enable them to be promoted. So it is something that supports the academic career path. We kind of try and buddy up, so early career researchers with those that are more established and that are undertaking the evaluations, so that they can pass that on and have a succession plan as well. So, yeah.
I'm Paul at Salford. In the early days, when you were going for tenders, did you get external help with that, or did you learn just by failing?
We learned through hard work, determination, failure, learning from the minimal successes that we had, and also from understanding. So some organisations would just come directly to us and we'd have to put in a proposal. That was quite easy. You don't really learn a lot from that. So it's actually when you're doing the open tenders and that sort of competitive process, that's where you do learn. But it is very, very different from either submitting an application to Innovate UK to an application that's going into a research council to a Horizon Europe. It is so different, and that's why, not even just from like how you actually do it, but all the documentation that you need. So, I mean, we've got a repository. I mean, when we first started, we didn't know, like, where is the university's modern slavery policy? Right, let's find that, and then you go and find it 5 times, and then you decide that you need to keep it somewhere else. So all the requirements, we've now got that's all a well-oiled machine, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Even like all the insurance documentation that we have to provide, it's been a learning process. It absolutely has, but it gets easier every time that we're actually doing it. And as I mentioned in that last slide, feedback's essential, because it's the only way that you actually learn is from the failures. You have to make sure you try and learn and sit down with the academic, and if they're really passionate about actually working in this type of field, eventually, we'll have a success with them.
Hi, I'm Maggie from Edinburgh Napier. I was just wondering, did it sound like you offered post-award support to the academics in terms of the evaluation as well? As in, you said, help them keep to time and things like that.
So I'm involved with the projects from cradle to grave. I find them at the very start, and I offer a project management essentially all the way through the project. I have to open a lot of emails. Let's say, is the contract signed? And I'm there all the way through to the final invoice being delivered as well. I mean, we do have, I'm working with colleagues within the university and within the client as well, but it's to try and make the process as easy as possible because, as I say, this isn't traditional research grant funding routes, and you are in a competitive market with really fleet-footed organisations, and we're universities. We have the agility of an oil tanker. So yeah, that's essentially what I'm doing, is to try and really, and it's at all the stages through the project.
It's Wenming from Brunel University, and my question is as a business, how you cover the time cost for the unsuccessful application, and how you manage the risk, say how you maintain the high success rates in terms of make the business sustainable. Thank you.
So I think it's really important to note that I think the success rate for the tenders is probably higher than applying for either Innovate UK money or for Research Council standard grants, but obviously they're not the same value. That's why we have Paul's resource, and we fund that through HIFE, because the more contract research and consultancy money we have coming in, then the more HIFE that we get. So that's how we sustain that. And what was the second point of your question? The timing for the unsuccessful. Yeah, so it's just like you've got to be in it to win it. We, like Paul was saying, there was £4 million worth of grants available to be applying for, but we couldn't go for all of them because we didn't have enough academics that were willing to do that. So we would prioritise high value, etc., where we can.
I was going to say,
you want to add, but we do need to
figure 48 million.
48, sorry.
48 million.
48 million
that we were circulating, that Paul was finding, or that we were being approached to service, and we realised we only had the capability to apply for 2% of those. So that's where some of the work Paul and I have been doing in building the business case to advocate for additional resources come from.
So it was a lost opportunity. But I am really mindful of time and that we want to... Are we okay? Yeah. Okay, there was another hand over there as well.
Thank you. Fiona Mason from Edinburgh Napier as well. You were mentioning about the 2% that you obviously had done some analysis that's what you could respond to. How did you attract your academics to sort of engage in this type of work? Like, do you have a consultancy, CPD sort of like framework that you would pay them for it? And is that something that you look at as a business model as well to make sure that you can achieve that 2%?
So everything that they apply for, if it's an evaluation, will either be contract research or consultancy, and we'll follow our normal processes and remuneration through our processes for that. So the academic is rewarded through both of those systems, and it all counts as income that can go forward for their pathways to promotion. So they are incentivised both with reward and with recognition. And Paul's started the internal network to pull them all the academics together. Yeah,
it's a very top-down, bottom-up approach as well. You know, meeting with we have a Making a Difference program where we go out and we meet the directors of impact, the directors of research, the heads of departments, and we find out what the strategy for each department actually is, and they can feed down what we're actually doing. But it's also getting out and meeting the new academics that are coming into the university, or the ones that have been there for a while and don't actually know what we're doing yet, because it can be quite large and spread out. But it's getting out there, getting the message out there, talking to them, finding out, letting them know what we can do for them, and how much of the legwork we will try and do as well to make it easier for them to just do the research. Just to add as well, we've just had one of the projects has been leading on to an impact case study as well, which is fantastic. And there's high hopes it's going to be a 4-star one as well. So, as I say, it feeds across the whole sort of university ecosystem.
Hi, it's Kate Thorpe, University of Sussex. You mentioned that one of your challenges was maintaining quality as the service centre grows. And I wondered how you're doing that because I'm thinking about training both for the ECRs but also with one of your stated what's next targets around CPD. What about training for academics delivering CPD, which, as we know, is quite different to delivering a lecture? Is that something that you deliver as professional services support, or do you commission people in?
Well, part of the role that the evaluation specialist will be taking on will also be showing how it's possible to get into these actual projects. The best way for training, really, as I was mentioning earlier, is for an early career research to start off with a very low value project. Any academic can do this type of work. You're collecting either qualitative or quantitative data or mixed methods and analysing it and providing a judgment based on the research and the data that you have collected. So as Kirstie also said, a buddying up scheme where you have a sort of an early career researcher with a late career researcher, that always helps. But in this, for the actual academics themselves, the best method of training is the practice.
I think when it comes to CPD, that's something that we'll need to. So we obviously we deliver CPD across the academics, and again we'll be using the academics that already perform well in this space to show the academics that are maybe newer to it. And I think I'm hopeful that it will be something that we offer on a regular basis. So we'll maybe get to the point where it's like a more repeat service, so that we'll have different local authorities asking or different charities asking for us to provide that as a service.
We also have a fair amount of support from a team that look after the summer schools and short courses that we offer. So if there is a bespoke piece of training that we provide for an organisation, but we think, hang on a minute, we could provide this to other similar organisations, that's where the short courses team will be able to help come in and refine that to make sure that it's of a standard of a quality. It's kind of in keeping with the quality of the other short courses we offer. So they provide that wraparound support for that as well. I think one more question. Oh no, I'm going to have to run.
Hi, Adnan Bayat from Salford University. For me, is how do you balance the cost and overheads so as not to price yourself out the market, especially when it's open tenders?
Yeah, that's a really difficult aspect of applying for the open tenders, but it's funder rules. You can only apply for sometimes what you can, and we maximise that to the best of our ability. If we have an eminent professor that's got an exceptionally high day rate, they don't spend a lot of time on that project where there's not a lot of time for them to be able to do that. And also that's part of the reason why bringing along the early career researchers to be able to support that. But being in that competitive market where you have a small scale consultancy that's got something they can take right off the shelf, and an academic institution that has all the wealth and depth of experience that we have. So again, we have to be mindful of the tenders that we do apply for. If it's a really small scale, then it'll be generally one academic that would take that on. The larger scale ones, then we bring together the teams of academics. But I'm sitting talking like I do this now. You do it now, Paul.
No, I think we with the overheads, we have to believe in ourselves. We're not the smaller scale consultants. We have to believe in the research that we can offer. We have to believe in the end product that we can offer. We have to the cohort that we're introducing this organisation into as well, and the longer lasting. We have to charge overheads. And most times with these, it's a 100% full economic cost as well. We have to believe in ourselves. That's the only way. But it's one of the challenges and or considerations when we're dealing with the other companies. But I think what we offer that the smaller smaller scale ones don't offer is academic curiosity, which is quite important.
Okay, we're making good time. I'm going to get on the stage again. And Paul, can you pass me the paper down there?
Certainly.
Please? Thank you. So we've now arrived at the ominously titled practical part of the workshop, which means, well, I'm lucky really, because Paul and Kirstie have done all of the talking, all of the heavy lifting, and then I get to swoop in and say, "Now it's your turn." So I think I've got the easy part here. My name's Stephanie Humphreys. I'm head of knowledge exchange at the University of Essex, and I get to proudly say that the evaluation services sits within our team. And the reason why I get to say proudly is because the dedicated support that Paul and the rest of the team are offering these projects has taken this idea that predates me, that started as what if we pulled together this expertise? What if we think about these opportunities by drawing a circle around them rather than servicing them individually, and create something, brand it, and throw some dedicated resource behind it. And having done that and walked into it at a later stage, I can still see that it's growing. I can still see that there's more that we can do here, and Paul's outlined some of those opportunities already. So what are we going to be doing for the next 30 minutes? We're going to have a few minutes to talk amongst the people that you're sat next to on your tables, and have a think about whether there's any ideas that you've had that have been percolating in the background for years, for hours, or maybe you've been inspired, hopefully, by something that my colleagues have shared. If not, that's absolutely fine. There's going to be other ideas and other people, I think, that you're sat with who will be able to share ideas that will hopefully inspire you too. So for the first 5 minutes of the practical session, we're going to be revisiting this slide that we looked at earlier on and asking you to ask yourselves these questions. So how do you get your research into the real world and make it useful? What do your academics like to do? And that might be very different to what we've outlined, and you'll know that better than we do. So 5 minutes. If you are sat next to people from your institution and you want to maximize this, I really recommend getting up and finding someone who is unfamiliar to you or interesting, who looks interesting, and having this conversation with them. And I'll call us back in a few moments where we will move on to the next part. don't know if it's still live. Okay, 30 more seconds and then I'm going to pull you all out of the conversations. Okay, if I can bring you back from those conversations, I always hate to be the person to interrupt when conversations flowing, but I'm afraid we have to. So hopefully there's some ideas bubbling on tables. I had ideas as I was walking past. I've seen people writing things down, so this is a good sign. The next part of this session, we're going to look at some of the resources that are on the tables. So for these tables at the back, these two at the back, you may not have worksheets because we didn't know how many people would be coming to this session. But there are 8 places down here on these tables, so you're welcome to join in because there's enough sheets per table. But essentially what we're going to be looking at is the A3 pages on the table, which is a service model canvas. It's very likely that you've seen something like this before. I'm a real advocate of these model canvases because they really help provide a framework for starting to populate your ideas and for making it a little bit less overwhelming as well. So this is a service model canvas. You can get product model canvas if you're thinking about, it's not actually a service that we want to provide, it's a product. And also, as Paul mentioned, we used a business model canvas when we were building the business case for the additional resource we thought we needed to grow the service. And just as a top tip, if your university steering group or equivalent ask you to present or provide a business case in 3 days, and you've already done one of these a few months back, it's a real relief and it comes together much more quickly than it would have done without. So the service model canvas. I'm not going to walk through all these sections, but it's a really helpful way of thinking about and fleshing out, is this idea sound? What are the considerations we might need to make? So if I was going to go back in time at the beginning of this, if I was around then and I had thought about what we might consider, I'd be looking at some of these sections. So challenges, as Paul's already mentioned, resourcing for us is a challenge. So as everyone here who is in KU knows, you need to stimulate the demand and the supply, and how often does that marry up? So if you're going to call something a service, you need to be able to service that service, which is why we've been thinking about the RA pool and the dedicated resource and how we can provide some more resilience and sustainability in that service. So that is something I would have put under the challenges boxes. Service proposition, why would people use the service? So from the opportunities that we were seeing individually at first, those organizations didn't have the expertise in-house. They might not have had the resource to procure that either or to bring someone in. Their funder might require them to provide an independent evaluation. So that's another reason why they need to go outside to look for this support. And also to learn, to see, is what they're doing effective, is what they're doing valuable, how can it be better in the future? So that's how we may have conceived why someone uses the service. Thinking about competitors is really important, and we've touched upon these independent consultancies. It's interesting because Paul's right in that we have been approached by organisations that have said we've used them in the past and those organisations serve a specific need, but some organisations don't want that or they're not looking for that. So we've had organisations come to us that say, we want people who can follow the insights. We want the curiosity of an academic research-led organisation or service, because as things emerge during the process of our evaluation, of our intervention, we want the academics to be able to follow that. We want them to be able to pivot and then start to pursue that, as opposed to, well, this is what you've commissioned us to do, and this is what we're going to provide you, without there being much scope for kind of that to evolve during the lifetime of a project. So actually, that's in understanding your competitors, you can then understand your edge. What do you offer that is different? And also you can see how can you flip that. So actually our competitors can become our customers because they might need us or a specialist academic with a specific knowledge base to work on projects that they have. So actually it's not always a bad thing. I think there's ways to find the kind of silver lining for that. So I'm going to hand it back over to you to look at this service model canvas. The spaces at the front with extra worksheets. If you have a laptop and you want to look this up, if you Google service model canvas, this one comes from UX for the masses, but there's loads of them out there. You can also look at that digitally if you don't have access to a physical copy. But it doesn't matter where you start with this. That's kind of the beauty of it. You can build it out from what you currently know and then think about who you might want to consult or the research you might need to do to build this out much further. And actually, if you want to take this forwards to kind of test the water, to see if you can get buy-in from people as you're working it up, this is a really great thing to share with those people because it lays it out in such a way that what you're asking for, what you're offering is really clear to see. So it's a good tool for kind of communicating the initial idea before you've done all that work and written a paper necessarily, and try to get buy-in at that stage. So 15, well, let's have a look. Under 15 minutes, we will rove and try to be useful on the floor if you want to nab us or ask us any further questions. And then right at the very end, we will wrap up with a few reflections. Over to you. Yeah, shall I take them down to that table? Thanks. You don't want to start? You don't want one? You're not going to start a service? No, no, just teasing you.
It's good presentation. You know, there's always things, and actually. People do that. I know. Sets bad expectations. Yeah, I know it does. We haven't done it for everything. Well, also, we're in a frame where he needs to put forward income-generating projects. So, anyway, I'll let you row. Yeah. I know where University of Salford, but you look at me as if I'm like an expert. Their organisation. I wonder also.
That is actually, skills of innovation.
But then it depends. The person that went to my man was like, "Hi."
Underpins a lot of these activities to gain.
I didn't realise it. It doesn't exist.
Wow. It's not a bad way of conceiving these things. And what's that to say? Yeah, yeah. But that was helpful, actually.
They said to me, you have an alternative income stream, just stay there.
Right.
Have you read any of the news about universities recently?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we're still exploring it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's only conversations with us. It's not, yeah. But we've got this civic.
so if you use the language that's right for them, which for many might be impact, as you say. So thinking about it. So what?
Hello again. We're about 3 minutes away, I think, from, is it another coffee break? From more coffee and tea and biscuits, which I think you've all earned from all the conversations that I've heard and all the work that's been going on and all the model canvases that are being filled in. Before we do head off for final refreshments, I wanted to ask how you found that. How was it? Do you have any kind of reflections or thoughts on that process? We didn't promise that you'd walk out of here with a ready-made service or product, but I'd like to think that at least in the room there might be a few ideas here that could be taken forward and worked up. So if anyone does want to say how they found it, or anyone has had a brilliant idea they want to share, we've got a few minutes where you can have the last word. Silence. No ideas. No, I don't believe that. Was it useful? In that case, can we have thumbs up or thumbs down? Any sort of feedback would be quite helpful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Thank you very much for your attention, for your engagement. If you'd like to chat to any of us, we'll be around throughout the conference. If you want to drop us an email later on, evaluate@essex.ac.uk. The leaflets on the desk take you to our evaluation services webpage if you want to find out more. And there's a shiny new brochure that's so hot off the press, I think it's being printed right now, that didn't make it up here in time, unfortunately, but the digital copy is available if you want to have a look further. So thank you very much.